Launching the Antiquities Act of 1906, President Teddy Roosevelt created the nation's first national monument designation, Devil's Tower National Monument in Wyoming. The important purpose of this act was to preserve, for all Americans, significant pieces of the country's history. Ecology, geology, and beauty. But unlike America's great national parks, size is not important for monuments. Historic sites and other units of the national park system. Monuments are typically established by presidential proclamation, chosen as their personal memorials of the most special parts of this great country. However, occasionally these units of the park system are established by the direct action of Congress. Some are big, some are small. Some garner large budgets and staff, others next to none. And some eventually gain national park designation. America's treasures tell the story of the nation's past and present glory. Known for their breathtaking beauty, they are among nature's greatest wonders. The mystical deep canyons and gorges of the American West. Canyons and gorges that draw visitors from around the world. Canyons and gorges preserved by America's great national park system. Zion National Park. Bryce Canyon National Park. The Grand Canyon of Yellowstone National Park. Canyon de Chelly National Monument. And of course, the granddaddy of them all, Grand Canyon National Park. However, often overlooked is Colorado's western slope. It is a treasure trove of canyon country where hikers, campers, and travelers can experience some of the wildest remaining high desert canyon landscapes. Experience some of the most pristine wildlands where people can still fully feel the solitude. Sights and sounds of nature. Here, two of the most magnificent canyons in the world are preserved by the National Park System on Colorado's western slope. Black Canyon of the Gunnison National Park and Colorado National Monument. Colorado National Monument is a land of towering red sandstone monoliths and deep, sheer-walled canyons. It is located on the Colorado Plateau, at the northeastern edge of the Uncompahgre Plateau.
The Colorado National Monument, I think a lot of people don't realize what we have right here in Colorado, but we have something that's, I think, is as spectacular as something like, say, Arches or Canyonlands in Utah.
Ahead, the Colorado National Monument high country rises up over 2,000 feet. And it's time to drive perhaps the most exhilarating road in the national park system. The monument's 23-mile rim rock drive. We enter from the east. As we wind our way up, we realize why the land was set aside. For its sheer magnificence.
You get a real sense of the majesty of the thing. Then you turn around and you look north and you see the plains out there. So you get this feeling of really, wow, this is something really spectacular that I'm here. And we take our friends there all the time because we like seeing the same things over and over and over again. And it's a really special place.
A special place for the father of the monument, John Otto, who wrote in 1907, "I came here last year and found these canyons, and they felt like the heart of the world to me. I'm going to stay to promote this place because it should be a national park." Ride with us now as we enter the world of colorful sandstones and shales, the place of vibrant steep canyons, the land of balanced rocks, sculpted red rocks, sweeping arches, and a tapestry of rock shapes. In 1911, John Otto's dream came true. President William Howard Taft, who had visited the area, used the highest powers available to him via the Antiquities Act to declare the canyons as a national monument. The rocks before you were laid down during the Mesozoic era, the time of the dinosaurs. For much of that time, the land was covered by great sand dunes, preserved now as ancient sandstones. When the dinosaurs, except for birds, died out, the Rocky Mountains began to rise up, and two great rivers, the Gunnison and the Colorado, began flowing west to the Pacific Ocean. In time, they would carve out the formations you see before you. As we continue along Rim Rock Drive, each new site is as spectacular as the last. But there's an even better way to experience the dramatic canyons.
People need to get out and get away from the car. I'll bet 80 to 90% don't get a half mile away from the car. You gotta make those efforts in these places and get out a little bit further and really experience. It's kind of like going on a tour with people as opposed to living in somebody's house in a foreign country. I mean, it's just a totally different experience. So when you go out and you visit these places away from the road and that, you are living in their house and you're really enjoying what's really there.
Barely into the east side of the monument is the Devil's Kitchen hiking trail. To hike this or any other trail in the monument, be sure you're well prepared for the high temperatures and dry conditions.
Hey, so we're headed out to Devil's Kitchen, and we are making sure that we are well hydrated ahead of time and bringing tons of water with us and lathering up with sunscreen and sun protection.
A gradual descent down the trail takes you by a number of huge upright boulders and views of spectacular rock formations off in the distance. Along the way, you'll be able to observe a number of the plants that make up the high desert pinyon pine ecosystem. The Utah juniper, sagebrush, rabbit grass, and the ubiquitous greasewood. a shrub that has an overall scraggly, densely branched, spiny appearance. The trail leads across a dry wash and on to other rock formations. The first overlook along Rim Rock Drive is Cold Shivers Point. The name might have come from the chill that you get while peering over the edge of Columbus Canyon, which drops 2,000 feet below. The overlook certainly is a grand preview of what lies ahead. Red Canyon. Here you get a spectacular view of the broad and colorful Red Canyon. It is a geological story 1 billion years in the making. Below the Mesozoic red cliffs are ancient Precambrian metamorphic rocks. The next stop is the Ute Canyon hiking trail. The Ute Indians occupied this land long before any Europeans set their eyes on these cliffs and rock formations. As we hike down, we get a good look at the Wingate Sandstone, a reddish-orange sandstone, usually appearing in sheer cliffs. The Wingate Sandstone is approximately 330 feet thick in the monument and is coated on most cliff faces with a desert varnish. A desert varnish that has been the favorite canvas for over 1,000 years of petroglyphs, alluring Native American rock art. Fallen Rock Overlook gives you a look at the west arm of Ute Canyon. No one can say for sure when the giant block of Wingate sandstone detached from the cliff. Halfway through the drive is Artist's Point. This inspirational overlook offers wide-ranging views into Monument Canyon below. Many monoliths, and even further, the Grand Mesa, the largest flat-topped mountain in the world. It is believed Artist's Point was given its name because early artists often stopped here to make paintings of the colorful cliffs and canyons. Others believe it was named because those same colorful cliffs and canyons remind you of a painter's palette. Many say that Monument Canyon is the heart of Colorado National Monument. At Monument Canyon View, the Great Canyon lays out before you, as well as a distant view of the Independence Monument monolith. Perhaps the signature and most photographed erosional feature in the park. Enjoy the red rocks and monoliths. And nearby is a look at the coke ovens, an erosional feature that looks like a sequence of early 20th century coke ovens. As we get closer to the visitor center and the start of the west portion of Rim Rock Drive, there are a number of hiking trails and overlooks. Independence Monument View and Book Cliffs View. All of these overlooks give you views of the most spectacular portion of Monument Canyon's erosional pinnacles and monoliths. Enjoy the visual feast before you. We turn back east for one more hike, this time down OTTO'S Trail near the Visitor Center. At 0.75 miles, OTTO'S Trail is one of the monument's shorter hikes. The stroll descends gradually to a cliff overlooking Monument Canyon. John Otto was born in 1870 and, at the age of 36, arrived in Grand Junction, Colorado. It was here that he fell in love with what would become Colorado National Monument. Otto spearheaded fundraising campaigns, collected signatures for petitions, and penned newspaper editorials and endless letters to Washington politicians in support of national recognition for the ancient canyons and towering monoliths of his adopted home. A task in which he succeeded. Keep in mind what this lover of nature, John Otto, is doing. He is asking no credit, yet he deserves it all. Single-handed, he has opened this great playground to the world. Walter Walker, Grand Junction Daily Sentinel, April 1909. Otto lived alone in the canyons and used a pick and shovel to carve out many of the trails himself. Gradually, through his single-minded pursuit and his Herculean physical efforts, the scenic treasures hidden in the canyons were made accessible to the public. After 16 years as the park's custodian, Otto retired and left Grand Valley. He headed west and made a new home in Eureka, California, the place that sparked the California Gold Rush in 1848. John Otto died there on June 19, 1952, at the age of 81. At the end of the trail named after him, there is no greater tribute to his legacy and accomplishments than a final look at what he preserved for all of us, Colorado National Monument. Black Canyon of the Gunnison National Park is a little off the beaten path on the western edge of Colorado's Southern Rockies. It was established as a national monument in 1933 by President Herbert Hoover, and in 1999 reestablished as Black Canyon of the Gunnison National Park. Entering the Black Canyon of the Gunnison, the visitors often thinking, I've seen lots of canyons and gorges, so how can one more be different? But what awaits you as you walk up your first overlook in the canyon is the biggest, oh my God, experience in the national park system.
Well, the Black Canyon of the Gunnison is literally, it's breathtaking, and it truly does take your breath away. You get out to one of those vantage points and you look out there, and I think the first reaction anybody's going to have is, wow. It's beautiful, it's incredibly deep, the rock is multicolored, you can see the vegetation and the river down below, and you go from some vantage points you can even hear the river and realize how very far away that is and how huge the rapids are in that river. So it's really quite a moving experience.
You have to sit there and look and realize how long it took to carve something like the Black Canyon out, and that it's still an ongoing process. And I think it really makes you feel insignificant as far as, you know, what's going on. But the views and everything, they're even away from the canyon in the national park, there's so many different things to see and do.
One of those things you can do is take an hour-and-a-half park ranger guided boat trip downriver on the Gunnison, the river that has carved the Black Canyon of the Gunnison. Tours begin at the Pine Creek Boat Dock, access from the Pine Creek Trail at US Highway 50. Although not actually in the park, you will nonetheless learn about the geology, wildlife, and early inhabitants.
Out here, all of our metamorphic rocks tend to be pretty dark, and all of the white minerals are banded up together, and all the dark minerals are banded up together, and all the pink minerals are banded up together. And that's what we call this. We call them bands. When you're looking around for a rock, if you want to know which kind it is, look for those bands.
Each twist and turn of the boat brings surprises and beautiful reflections. On the cruise, you also get a taste of the steepest cliffs, oldest rocks, most inspiring waterfalls and craggiest spires in the park system, including Pioneer Point and Kirakanti Needle. All these magnificent geologic features were sculpted by the Gunnison River, the river on which you are floating. The Gunnison River is a 164-mile tributary of the Colorado River. Just past the town of Gunnison, Colorado, the river begins to swell into the expanse of Blue Mesa Reservoir, a 36-mile-long reservoir formed by Blue Mesa Dam, where it receives the Lake Fork of the Gunnison. Just downstream, it is dammed again to form Morrow Point Reservoir, on which you are cruising. Then just downstream, dammed for the final time to form Crystal Reservoir. We took a right turn shortly after entering the park and headed down to the Crystal Dam, taking the East Portal Road. The road is extremely steep with hairpin curves. As you head down, you can see and experience the different ecosystems in the park, starting with a pinyon pine juniper forest. Commonly called cedar, the juniper always seems to mingle with the pinyon pine, thriving in the unique climate and soils of the park. Next, you can also stop and submerge yourself in a gamble oak thicket, a dense bushy environment that provides cover for animals such as mule deer and their young. Once in the canyon, it is easy to spot pockets of Douglas fir and aspen trees that have invaded craggy slopes where snow lingers long into spring. Finally, there is the Gunnison River itself, pure and pristine. Here, trophy-sized rainbow and brown trout inhabit the river's gold-medal chilly waters. From the canyon floor looking up at the ever-present dark shadows cast in the deep chasms, you understand why it's called the Black Canyon. But the best is yet to come. The South Rim Road is 7 miles long, from Tomichi Point to High Point, and boasts 12 incredible overlooks. Our first look is from Gunnison Point, an overlook below the visitor center offering breathtaking views down steep canyon walls to the river. As you can see from here, the Black Canyon is incredibly deep and sheer, with plunging cliffs, soaring buttresses, and a thundering river. Within the park boundaries, the canyon is 14 miles long, with its greatest depths over 2,700 feet from top to bottom. And at one point, only 48 feet wide. On average, plunging 43 feet per mile. Most overlooks provide gentle hiking trails that give you different stunning perspectives on the canyon. Midway through the drive is Chasm View Overlook. Here you can hear the roar of the Gunnison River far below. Chasm View is one of the most spectacular overlooks in the park. A very short path descends slightly to a sizable railing-protected viewing area above perhaps the steepest part of the whole canyon, where the cliffs fall 1,840 feet. Famed as a favorite spot for painters, the chasm itself is like a great painting. Not far from the chasm point is for many the favorite overlook in the park.
The painted wall overlook is great because you do get a wonderful view of, it's kind of considered the classic view for the South Rim is the enormous painted wall. It's a huge black wall with these stripes of other light-colored rock going up there. It's also one of the main areas where people will do rock climbing, although much as I've tried to spot somebody rock climbing and I've never managed to do it when I've been out there.
Painted Wall is one of the highest cliffs on the North American continent. Here is a good place to ponder how all this was possible. Around 2 billion years ago, this area was a shallow sea. Great volcanoes blasted ash into the air and were deposited in that ancient sea. Gradually, these sediments were buried deep below the Earth's surface, where heat and pressure transformed them into the metamorphic dark-colored rock, schist and gneiss that make up the painted wall. Around 1.4 billion years ago, while the metamorphic rock was still buried, magma from the Earth's interior squeezed into the schist and gneiss, forming igneous rocks, pegmatites. Crystal-laden pegmatites that make up the vibrant color accents on the canyon walls. 170 million years ago, erosion exposed these metamorphic rocks. Finally, snowmelt from the Rockies to the east drained into the ancient Gunnison River. Eventually, at a rate of 1 inch per century, the river eroded away the canyon before you, a true geologic wonder of time and scale. Sunset View is a second-to-last stop along South Rim Road. Here, the perspective down the canyon is more to the northwest. And here, more of the downstream section of the canyon is visible for the first time, all the way to the Uncompahgre River Valley in the far distance. As the sun sets, it's an appropriate farewell to the spectacular national park.